couple of minutes left, and people will notice you have not said sorry for making a difficult choice. You had the opportunity to, but you haven't said sorry for making what is, people acknowledge, a difficult choice.
This interview was fatal for Starmer. He couldn't handle even simple questions and was cornered by a journalist. He didn't have the courage to apologize for his stupid decisions. He also couldn't give direct answers to the question. Instead, he was saying something ridiculous. To be honest, I almost blushed with shame for him.
Can't stabilise the economy, we can't keep to the triple lock. And the triple lock is really important for every pensioner because that is the increase year on year. As I say, £900
we've
this
only
year,
got a
next
couple of minutes left, and people will notice you have not said sorry for making a difficult choice. You had the opportunity to, but you haven't said sorry for making what is, people acknowledge, a difficult choice. So let me move on. Chrissy said, I'd like some free gifts, Keir. I'd love to get all this stuff. They're just as bad as the Conservatives. I've been let down. Do you accept people think that the freebies, so-called, paid for by donors who presumably think they're going to get some kind of influence or access in return, makes you look out of touch?
Now scammers are cashing in on desperate pensioners, luring them to receive fake payments. Scammers redirect pensioners to a fake website that tricks them into providing personal information. This message was sent to thousands of phone numbers, and it said that recipients must apply by the 15th of October, otherwise they will not be able to receive payment. This is absolutely disgusting, just like the decision of the Labour Party. Pensioners will be so desperate for any help, because they don't know how they will cope that in their desperation they may be less careful. Labour hopes to save £1.4 billion a year by limiting benefit payments. 4 out of 5 pensioners already on the verge of poverty will lose payments, despite claims that low-income pensioners will be protected.
Well, let me just deal with that, because obviously in the busy period running up to the election, lots of people were helping the Labour Party and some made offers of gifts towards clothing, etc. We're very tied up at that stage, and therefore I took donations towards clothing. Now that was in opposition, we were busy working flat out on the election. Obviously we're in government now and you won't be seeing declarations like that from me in future. So that's the long and the short of it.
No more donations for clothes?
No.
Starmer feels no regret and will continue to accept gifts from Lord Ali. He generally rejected the accusations of violating parliamentary rules. As he said, there is a huge difference between declarations and corruption, and the idea that taxpayers should pay for the clothes of high-ranking politicians and their spouses, in his opinion, is fundamentally wrong. Deputies are required to register gifts and donations within 28 days. However, there will be no investigation into Starmer's sponsorship of his personal needs. You see, he can't go to the stands for security reasons. Therefore, if he does not accept the gift, he will miss the game. And for him to never go to an Arsenal match again just because he can't accept a gift seems like nonsense.
Well, let me just give you the example, because in relation to my particular donations, quite a lot relate to football matches. Now,
okay, people understand that you feel safer.
I'm not sure everybody is.
You feel safer in hospitality.
Just let me.
Premier League donating tickets to go and see Taylor Swift?
Well, let me just explain, because you're putting this to me, and I think it is important. I've got season tickets at Arsenal. I've had them for a very long time, and I go with my boy who's 60. For security reasons, not my choice, but both the club and the security do not think that I can be in the stands anymore where my tickets are paid for. So the club have said, well, in which case, you can be our guest in the director's box. Other clubs have done the same. Crystal Palace, for example, invited me to go in the director's box.
Did you know that besides going to Taylor Swift concerts, he also talked to her? He even met her mum. And he received the tickets in gratitude after he provided Swift with a police escort due to the great threat of sabotage. That is, providing one of the richest superstars in the world with security is a mandatory measure, and helping their citizens is something they can handle themselves.
So you're not ruling that out. What about free tickets to gigs?
I think that's a matter of judgment, I think, for every MP. There has to be a good reason. They'll exercise their judgment. Of course, they'll then have to record it in accordance with the rules, as you would expect.
Okay. And finally, you're about to be in America, in New York. We spend $3 billion on Ukraine, $8 billion on foreign aid. What do you say to those who say, spend that money at home?
I understand that argument, but I think in relation to, let's say, Ukraine, we have to understand that that war in Ukraine is not just about Ukraine. It's about Russian aggression, it's about our freedom, our democracy, the way we're able to exercise our rights in this country. It is the frontier of freedom, and so it's really important that we stand with Ukraine. That's why there's been pretty well political unity on this from the start. Yes, of course, Russia has invaded Ukraine, so it's about Ukrainian sovereignty, but it is also about our freedom, our democracy, and our rights and freedoms in this country.
The government intends to allocate at least £3 billion annually for military support to Ukraine. After his first talks with Zelensky at the NATO summit in Washington, Starmer confirmed that military assistance would continue until at least 2030. Since February 2022, the UK has allocated almost £12 billion to Ukraine in support, of which £7.1 billion for military assistance. The rest is for humanitarian and economic support. Starmer called on NATO allies to increase defence spending. The government should not increase spending on the army if it cannot also ensure economic growth. This is nonsense. And anyway, why escalate a conflict that is already catastrophic? Did you notice any improvement after NATO started financing Ukraine? I did not notice. In my opinion, everything has become much worse, more deaths, more provocations, more aggression. It would be better if the government helped its citizens return to their usual way of life instead of sponsoring violence.
And I think everybody would accept.
And any
but in
cuts
circumstances
to
like
foreign
that,
aid?
well, you know, of course, every decision has to be carefully taken. But we have been resolute, and I'm proud that we've been resolute in this country for our support for Ukraine. I'm proud that across the country, people have opened their homes to refugees from Ukraine who've suffered from Russian aggression. I think that's who we are as a country, but it also matters because if Russian aggression is seen to benefit and succeed, that is an issue of deep concern to the United Kingdom.
People who receive Ukrainians in their homes constantly complain about them and accuse them of fraud. Some refugees abuse our social security system, receiving payments and other benefits, while being quite wealthy. One of his people posted a picture with 2 packages of Apple AirPods headphones which the Ukrainian bought for payment. They cost about £189. Another Ukrainian woman bought sunglasses from Dolce & Gabbana for more than £200. And one of the British women found out that up to 22 visa applications were submitted with the help of her passport without her knowledge. She kept in touch with the Ukrainian woman online and shared her data. Many Ukrainians are not at all destitute, but are simply happy to live in Britain at someone else's expense and are in no hurry to assimilate or work. Everyone began to realize that hospitality was costing them dearly. Ukrainians, instead of helping the people who sheltered them, spend their allowance or savings on expensive purchases. No one will like losing money and husbands.
Just in a yes or no, are you keeping the single person council tax discount?
Look, I'm not going to make decisions before the election, before the budget, so we'll see that in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
That's fascinating, Susanna, because you could almost see the fort that he was sitting inside, surrounded by defensive moats and defensive ditches and spikes. You know, he was right in there. And I think that for him was a wasted opportunity. Why couldn't he simply say, look, of course I apologise to pensioners for what I'm having to do, but I have no alternative, but of course I'm sorry. Why couldn't he just talk like a human being?
In my opinion, it has already become obvious to everyone that he is lying and he will not keep the discount on real estate tax once he evades the answer. The Finance Ministry refused to rule out such a possibility, insisting that difficult spending decisions would have to be made. The loss of the 25% discount will cost pensioners who own Category D properties up to £543. 10 million pensioners will lose their winter fuel allowance of up to £300, and an increase in the marginal price of electricity will increase the bills of the average family by £149. In total, the situation of pensioners may worsen by £992. Does the Labour Party really hate pensioners that much? That's the only conclusion I can draw. At every opportunity, the Labour Party fights back against them. Pensioners who have worked hard all their lives deserve to live with dignity in retirement. In addition to the obvious ethical debt to the pensioners who helped build this country, there is also a practical reason why they need support. Pensioners cannot earn more money. They can't work much. They depend on their pension. During the election, when they needed pensioners to vote for them, Labour constantly stated that they had no plans to change their benefits. Hypocrites and vile people. What do you think about this video? Share your opinion in the comments. See you.